MHU on three. 1, 2, 3.
MHU.
Hello, Lion fans, and welcome to another edition of Inside Lion Football. My name is Adam Williams. A change of host this week, but as always, joining me, head football coach Tim Clifton. Coach, congratulations on the big win this weekend. Homecoming, coming away with that 40-32 win over Barton. Let's give an overview and recap this game, what you saw out there, and again, getting homecoming out of the way.
You know, it's always great to have homecoming, but there's so many things, so many distractions during homecoming for the players, and you try to get them focused in, and but there's so many events on campus, so many things going on, but I thought our staff did a great job of bringing them back to the game and getting them focused in, and I thought we had a great crowd. I thought it was a phenomenal crowd. It's my understanding there were probably 300 or 400 people still outside. I'm not sure they ever made it in the stadium, and so it was an awesome day for our student body. It was an awesome day for Mars Hill University, and to be able to come out of there with a win, and our guys just played so hard, and you know, they played physical, and we had to come back. We got down early, and we had to come back, and I thought that showed their character, being down and having to get back into it, and then to go in at halftime up by 1. I thought that was amazing for what we had been through during the first half.
You mentioned that you look at the score sheet, our little cheat sheets here on the desk. At the end of the first, down 3-0. Doesn't seem insurmountable, nothing to add there. But eventually you work your way throughout this second quarter, trailing 19-6. At what point, was it after that score, or at what point in that quarter did the guys kind of have everything click? Like, hey, we need to come back. This is in front of our largest crowd of the year, homecoming. We need to start rallying back. And then as it saw 2 scores, you come into halftime leading 20-19.
Yeah, I think this team all year has come back when they've gotten down, and you know, unfortunately we've gotten down a lot of games already. I'd like to really get way ahead and try to stay ahead, but you know, I think we kept saying we got to get some stops. And then we had to get this. We had to get a score. We had to get this thing. We had to get 7 points. You know, to get it where we're not behind the 8 ball by so many points at halftime. And really, I was just saying, hey, well, let's just get this thing within 7, and then come out and play the second half. And then when we got up by 1, I kept told the guys at halftime, I said, you know, we hadn't played very well, and we're up by 1. I said, just think we'll go out there and play now. Let's go out there and play. But you know, we had some big plays there. The fake punt was a huge play for us, and for Hunter Bridges to get that first down was huge. And you know, but to get ahead after falling behind, and really we fell behind quick, and it was sort of it wasn't a shocker, but it was, man, we better get this thing going. We better crank this thing up.
Let's look at that first half scoring. Jackson Brooks with 32-yard field goal in the first quarter. We established that. Jordan Terrell, who is one of the better running backs, I would say, within the region, certainly, broke off an 82-yard run. That puts up Barton 10-0. Dre Morrison cuts into that deficit 10-6 with a 1-yard rushing touchdown. You go for the 2-point attempt. It's picked off in the end zone return. So I want to talk about that in a little bit here, because we saw a lot of things in this game that I don't think we've seen in this season so far. So we'll talk about a few more of those exciting plays. Jaquez Durham with a 74-yard pass. So 2 big plays by Barton puts them up 19-6. But then a big play of our own, Marquise Williams, 38-yard touchdown reception from Jimmy Urzua. And then Urzua punches it in from 1 yard out. And that's what brings you into the half, up 20-19. We mentioned that 2-point return. Later in the game, there was a blocked punt. There was a couple blocked point after attempts. There was all kinds of crazy stuff going on. What did you see from your sideline regarding both teams just making those plays happen?
Well, you know, we've been going for 2 all year. That's just what we do. And we didn't execute as well on the 2-point play as we normally do, and they picked it and ran it back, and you're basically saying, well, whatever can happen's happening. It's going to continue right now, and you just say, well, we got to get it stopped. Luckily we didn't have to put a huge bandage on it, but we had to get it stopped, and but as fake punt was huge. I thought our kicking game was the difference in the ball game. I thought the fake punt led to a score. The block punt led to a score. We should have scooped the block extra point and ran it in. I mean, we had a chance to do it. So there were a lot of things that went on that you normally don't see in a game. And but I thought our guys just kept plugging and we just kept plugging away, and saying we just kept chopping wood, we kept rowing the boat, we just kept doing the things we had to do, and we just kept fighting. And I coming out of half 2019, I felt pretty good about it.
Coming into that second half, Terrell breaks off another 1-yard run. Not really a break off, but still his second score. Jeray Morrison answers back with 2 touchdowns of his own, 3 on the day, freshman running back. Let's talk about Terrell. He's kind of the main threat as a running back for Barton. You look at the Mars Hill squad, there's about 3 or 4 players that came in. From your perspective, what's the difference when you have to just focus your attention on one running back compared to the 3 or 4 that we can run?
Well, I think going into the game, we knew we were going to have to stop the outside zone. They're so good at running that play, and he's so good at running the football. But I really thought our defense did a great job against him. You take the 82-yard run away. If we tackle him, we have a missed tackle or 2, and if we tackle him right there, it's an 8-yard gain. He might have had 60 for the game. But for us, I think what the defense has to look at is you can run 3 or 4 guys in there, and they all have a little different twist. I think most of the guys we run in there, they're very physical. They're hard to get on the ground, and but each one of them has a little bit different twist to them that you can't just hone in on one guy. And but now they have a great run game, but I thought our defense played great. There was a stretch between their second possession of the third quarter till right before the end of the game where we shut them down. I mean, we shut the run game completely down. So. But they're really good at what they do, and they scare you because they keep the ball. You don't get a whole lot of possessions, and when you get those possessions, you better be good on them, because if you're not, the clock's going to run out on you.
So you made the most of the possessions in the second half. We talked about Morrison's 2 scores, but kind of that insurance marker was C.J. Thompson's 44-yard pass, his reception, I should say, from Urzua. That put the lines up 40-25 late in the contest, and then with less than a minute to go, Barton cuts it to within 8. Let's talk about CJ, though. He's been he came on freshman year, had an incredible year, and then just kind of fell in the background. But, I mean, you can't fault him when you have Keyshawn Taylor, Craig Rucker, Tyler Ferguson, Javon Harbison. The list goes on and on.
Yeah.
Senior year, he's really stepping up. He leads the sack and reception yards per game with over 100. Let's talk about CJ's performance in the first half of the season so far.
Well, I talked to the guys yesterday after practice, and it's funny you bring it up. I just gave an example of what a true team guy is, and what a guy's all about, and CJ was in the shadow of all those guys for 3 years. I mean, he was just in the shadow, and he didn't get a whole lot of work. In fact, he caught them. I said, he's had probably more catches in one game than he had his sophomore and junior year, So, but he never complained. He never got upset. He came to meetings. He was always early. He was always in meetings. He always has a great spirit. I mean, he's as fine a young man as we've had come through this program, and he is upbeat. He's always got a great sense of humor. But he's got a lot of talent, and he's starting to show that he has a lot of talent. And it's and guys can't see it. Young guys can't see it. They all want success immediately. They want it now. With the transfer portal, you see guys going all over the place, and you never hear from them again. And but he hung in there, and he just stuck with it. And now he's as good as anybody in this league. And he's going to graduate, and I'm just so proud of the young man. It's just it's awesome to see a guy stick with the process and take the journey, which you have to do in football, and you have to stick with the process. And he has ridden this journey, and he's still riding it. And man, I'm so happy for him, and this football team's lucky to have him, because he could have easily said, I'm gonna graduate and leave. And he didn't, and so he is stuck with us like some other seniors, and it's paying off for us for sure.
Say 2 weeks in a row, Thompson with the game-winning receptions. We'll look down some top performers of this past weekend. Again, rushing Jordan Terrell with 135 yards, but like Coach mentioned, you take out that 82-yarder, about 50, maybe 60 yards total. Yeah. You look at the rushing for the Lions, Jere Morrison with 56, but of course, I think the most important number there, the 3 touchdowns, yes. 3 scores for Morrison. Jaquan Lynch at quarterback, 316 yards in the air, 2 touchdowns. Jimmy Urzua, 266 for 2. You look at the receiving numbers, Cameron Johnson with 8 receptions and 96 yards with 1 touchdown for the Bulldogs. Marquise Williams and C.J. Thompson, identical lines, 4 receptions, 102 yards, 1 touchdown apiece. And then you look defensively, Jenkins with 11 tackles for Barton, and Landon Honeycutt also with 11 for the Lions. Before we kind of recap this first half, let's talk about that defensive effort. This defense is maybe the strongest that I've at least seen it in the last several years, and I think Landon Honeycutt is a big reason why. What have you seen in his progression over the last couple of years?
Well, he played a ton as a freshman. He's a big guy that has a lot of speed. He can really run, but his intensity level, he plays every play as hard as he can play. And he practices the same way. He just practices so hard, and if you practice hard, you play hard, and then he has a lot of ability. I mean, he could play tight end. He could be a fullback. I mean, he could be a defensive end. He just happens to play linebacker, and that's where we play him. But he is really a great teammate. Goes to work every day. He brings his lunch pail every day to practice, and he brings his lunch pail every time he plays on Saturday. And, we're just lucky to have a guy that has that size and that can run like that and plays that hard. I think the biggest key is he plays unbelievably hard.
6 games in, Coach. Lions are 4-2, 4-1 at home. You have a good mix of road and home contests in the second half, but we recap these first 6 games. What are some of the biggest positives that you take away, and what are some things that you're trying to continue to improve upon in these last few games?
Well, I think the biggest positive is this group is continue to fight. They continue to play together. They've gotten behind, but we lost the first one. We came from behind and tied it up and went in overtime, and they just continue to fight. We cut the lead at LR to 8 in the fourth quarter, and but I think it's how hard they play and the way they prepare. But when they play hard, we're pretty good, and they've been playing hard, and we got to continue to play hard. And I think we got some things we got to clean up, and you always do. And one of the things we're stressing is we got to do a better job with penalties. We got to do a better job of not getting penalties and not getting pre-snap penalties. Those are the ones that really get you. And then last week we didn't have a turnover, and you're trying not to have turnovers, but you're trying to get turnovers. But our defense, I thought, last week just lined up and played just like they did against Newberry. I mean, they just played so hard and got after it. And it's a pleasure to watch those guys. And this is a fun team to coach. I mean, you just have a lot of fun coaching these guys. But the effort's been there. Now you're midway through, as you said. Now you got to somehow continue to get the intensity and the effort that you're getting. But you only have so many games in there where you just up it and up it and up it, and now we've got to figure out how we're going to continue to get better and up the tempo, because I think the tempo is the key.
Lions take on the Limestone Saints this weekend. We'll preview that matchup right after this. Welcome back to Inside Line Football. Adam Williams, joined by head football coach Tim Clifton. We're going to look at sack standings here quick. Again, cheat device number 2. Wingate leading the South Atlantic Conference with 3 wins, 3-0 overall. Catawba returning to action after a couple weeks. They're second. It feels, in a way, unfair. 1 game in conference, but they are second. They picked up that win over Carson Newman. Newberry with a big win over UVA Wise is third with a record of 3-1. We sit in fourth, 2-1 record in conference. Lenore Ryan, UVA Wise tied at 2-2. Tusculum with a 1-3 record, and then Limestone 0-2 in conference. Carson Newman rounding out the sack standings, 0-3 in conference. We look at where we are positioned in the standings, and actually just before we came back on, we were talking about how you don't really focus too much on that. It's kind of that day-by-day, game-by-game basis. But when you look at the schedule ahead and you see just how stacked the conference is, does that start to seep into your mind the further you go throughout the season?
No, I think I'm so old school. It's, people ask me some games, a coach will say, who you play next week? And sometimes I really don't know. I don't look, so I really don't know. And I just, I know people look ahead and people try to say, we got this and we got this one, we got this one. I just feel like you got to take care of business 1 week at a time, and you got to go through that process. And you can't skip a process. You can't skip a note just to try to say, all right, we'll get to here, because in this conference, there's not one gimme in this conference. I mean, as you look at the standings, some of those guys played last week, and it was a 7-point game. And so there's a lot of games that are being won in this conference by 7 points or less, and so you got to just focus in on the one you got and the one that's coming, and coming up against Limestone, it's always been an ordeal playing them, and it's always been tight games, and it's always been competitive when we play each other.
Limestone this past week really had Wingate on the ropes. At one point, I think Wingate was leading about 21-17, I want to say, going into the second half, and then Wingate eventually pulled away. But a solid performance by the Saints. You look at one of their top performers, Jacoya Patton, still with the team. It's one of those things that you and Stuart have talked about, these fifth-year players returning and having that extra year to play, set a Limestone record in that contest versus Wingate. In the spring, we traveled down there, and again, spring football is still kind of a weird statement to say, but traveled down there, picked up that overtime victory in Gaffney. From what I remember, too, wasn't the greatest of conditions, but what do you expect in April? You go back to Gaffney, and it's one of those weird kickoffs again, 4 o'clock start for you. And we've mentioned how many games have gone into overtime, just like this spring. Remember, there was a home contest a few years back. Limestone took it to overtime here as well. Looking ahead, we're a few days out as of this recording. What's the biggest thing that the team needs to focus on against the Saints?
Well, as you mentioned, we were down there in the spring, and we won an overtime game. I don't know. In the spring, to us, it was just we were trying to get better. We weren't. We were just trying to make our football team a better football team, and and somehow we got ahead, and then next thing you know, we're tied up, and we have to go into overtime. But every game we play them's tight, and then you got to focus going into there, and it's a hard place. It's a little place to dress, and you got a little bit of area there, and so you got to get your guys focused in, and we got to do as good a job getting them in the pregame, getting them dressed, getting them focused as we do when we get on the field, because that carries over too. So we'll start talking about that tomorrow and start talking with them about the process we got to go through to get dressed, how we're going to do it, what's our plan, and those kind of things. And, they've had some guys out. They've had some starters out. You look at the Wingate game, and there's some guys that played in the Wingate game that didn't play the week before, against Barton. And so they had a lot of guys back against Wingate, and they had Wingate 14-0. So and they're a very talented team, and their quarterback's back, and with him, they're a completely different football team. So we got our hands full, and like I said, it doesn't get any easier. We just gotta find a way to keep plugging and get this thing, get it done, and then you got to go on the road. But it seems like when you play on the road, every time's different. I think we ought to make our time here at 11:30 every Saturday morning, and make people come into here and play at a different time.
And it's funny you bring that up, because I've been thinking about that too. 5 of the first 6 games were at home. I think there's 3 on the road to end the season. obviously you want that home field advantage as often as you can, but are some of the teams like, hey, we want to try and get out there. We want to go to these different venues and not just show what we're capable of here in Mars Hill, but we want to bring our type of football and our winning ways across this region and make a statement at their arenas and their stadiums.
Well, you always try to go in and you try to prepare like it's your home. I mean, that's the biggest thing you try to do is prepare as you would prepare at home. I think guys get excited about playing different places. And this crowd, we hadn't been on the road. I mean, we finally going to get on the road. If I had my preference, I'd just go back to Mirror Stadium, But there's been times where we played 6 games on the road, during the season, and I think one year we played 7. So, but we've got to get our mindset in. All right, here we are. We've got to get this week's practice in, and then we're going to travel on Saturday, and these are the conditions, and this is what we're going to do, and this is how we're going to get ready, and these are the things we got to do to be successful.
And in some ways too, 100 yards is 100 yards.
Yeah,
the field doesn't change. Maybe the style of field changes, whether it's turf or grass, but essentially same distance, same boundaries.
Yes.
And it's just a matter of who has the better game plan that weekend. Well, Coach, as we wrap up, we want to wish you the best of luck this weekend. And then the following weekend, Lions return home versus Catawba, what should be a highly competitive, entertaining contest, but 1 week at a time, Coach, right?
That's right, 1 week.
You were watching Inside Line Football. I'm Adam Williams. This was head coach Tim Clifton. We'll see you next week.
Hey, MHU on 3. 1, 2, 3.
MHU.